Like Tom said, the best friend, Donna, shared this beautiful vision with us. I mean, with Tom, but I was listening since it was on speaker. Thank you, Ariana. And it goes like this. On the night of January 16, 2013, I was sitting vigil with a sedated Debra Scott in the intensive care unit at Florida Hospital. I'm sorry. The nurses had told me that afternoon that Debra's passing was imminent. Having been privileged to walk this journey for the last year and a half, I felt called to be there as she took her final steps across the threshold into God's arms. In the wee hours, in the dark of her room, and with unit's lights turned down, a silence fell over us that lent itself to prayers and thought and imagining. As I watched her breathing in and out and watched the monitors for any changes that the nurses had told me would alert us to her passing, my mind began to drift. I wondered who would come for her when her time came. Would it be her mom, or dad, or grandma, or her nephew Alex, all of whom predeceased her, and would it be Jesus himself, with his arms stretched out like the white scroll described in the Bible, welcoming his bride? And I thought how wonderful that would be for my dear Debra. I remembered when my husband and I were renewing our vows on our 25th anniversary. Debra confessed to me that one of the few disappointments in her life was that she had never been married herself. It was never the right time or guy or whatever, and how lucky I was to have found someone as special and had such a wonderful first wedding, and now a second as a renewal of the first. And it occurred to me in that moment that because of her deep and abiding faith, she would now be the ultimate bride as the church, going to the ultimate bridegroom, Jesus Christ, in whom she thoroughly believed and loved beyond measure. In my mind's eye, I saw her resplendent in a beautiful fairy tale wedding gown. Her gorgeous red hair, stolen by the cancer, was restored and coiffed under an ethereal silk veil lined with lace. She was walking slowly to her groom, and I was her bridesmaid. In my mind, I could hardly take my eyes off of her. Her image was so breathtaking. I heard a voice say, "Who giveth this woman to be married?" And I clearly heard Tom's voice as he said, "I, her brother, do." She was smiling radiantly, and as she approached her groom, I could see his hands reaching out to take her into him. He was enveloped in a glowing yellowish white light, and I could not make out the details of his form. Debra stopped, turned, and smiled at me as she handed me her bouquet, and then looked back at him. She smiled again at him, and reaching her arms out for his, and they were the only two in the universe. Then, as if in a dream, still really in my mind's eye, the scene changed to the rear view of the two of them going off in a carriage. Or was it a chariot? I was running behind them so incredibly happy, shouting goodbye and throwing rice. It was amazing. At that moment, Debra stirred a little in her sleep, as she had several other times during the night. Her one eye opened as before, and I said to her what I had been saying all evening when she did this. "It's okay, Debra. I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be right here next to you. Go back to sleep, honey." And as her eyes closed and the deep breathing began again, I added in a whisper, "We've got a big day tomorrow. We're finally going to your wedding."